Hey, brother.
What's going on with
What's
you?
going on with you? I saw you made a comment, but I didn't get a chance to see your post. So, what are your thoughts on the Cam and CNN interview?
I guess it depends on what perspective you're
Okay.
taking. So, I mean, in the sense of, um, do I believe Cameron was a white person to interview? Do I believe CNN chose it on purpose? Do I believe like what point of perspective or reference it depends from?
hmm Well, there's a couple things here. One, I have no problem, as you know, I have no problem with people being who they are. I have no problem with showing up consistently how you've always been. We expect Cam to be Cam. No problem with that. What I want people to understand, Keys, about this moment, and this is just coming from my perspective, is coming from, as you know, being on Revolt, actually working with Diddy, actually working with him on political, none of this other shit that everybody know, that's happening now. I don't know any of that. I wasn't privy to any of that, but actually working with him, actually working with his staff, actually working with the people who are having to deal in the aftermath of this. People like Dr. Steve Perry that ran his school, people like Tyrick Brooks, who was his former CEO, people like Datavio, who's the CEO of Revolt, people who have actually been engaged with Puff in real life in one way or the other, including myself, and really trying to explain to people what is happening in this moment. So while we are watching the downfall and the unfortunate circumstances that is surrounding this, what I wanted people to know, what my post is that to be very careful if you are called upon for an interview by mainstream media. It is not a podcast. It is not a casual barbershop conversation. It is very orchestrated. It is very calculated. And whether you like it or not, you are a representation of what they see as a black male rapper. So if Cam is saying, I'm getting ready to go clap cheeks, fine. That might be funny for the podcast. But what is out, what the message is, okay, we're talking about a rapper who is Diddy, who has been
Mhm.
accused of sexual and domestic violence. So all I'm saying is to the rappers and to those who are going to be speaking on this, to be mindful that when you're in mainstream media, to understand where you are, because to say, hey, I got good promotion out of it, hey, I got PR out of it, the CNN listener is, you're not gaining, they're not buying into your product, they're not buying your product. There's no such thing in this moment as all PR is good PR. That doesn't apply in this moment, because in this moment things, that image, we can either flip that, and just like I do on Fox News on a weekly basis, 100 times a year, when they bring me on and expect me to coon and expect me to do certain things, and I say, well, but while I got you here, let me blah, 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 blah. There's a way to flip the narrative, to change the narrative, to show up and give them a different answer than what they were looking for. And that's all I was saying. Be mindful of that. Just be mindful of what's happening in this moment, because they're doing this is orchestrated more so than how it looks. So that was my point. Do I got a problem with how he did what he did? Do what he do. But also those white producers that booked him knew exactly that's how he would show up. That's my point.
Yeah, I mean, I believe that they're not going to ever put on the people who's going to be the media trained and give them the answer in the first place. That's the point of them avoiding going. Cameron literally had O.J. Simpson with his own segment on his show. So pulling Cameron up to ask him about Diddy's apology, right? It wasn't a misstep, it was a calculated step,
Right.
right? We know from Cameron Bill O'Reilly's right interview back in the day, which was one of the most famous hip hop interviews when he kept saying no homo, right? He used those particular moments in a way that he wants to represent himself for his brand,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you have two businesses or entities that wanted to get something out of it. Cameron showed up to promote, right? And they showed up to get them a moment.
Mm-hmm.
And that moment they was going to contextualize however they want to, because they was never trying to bring anybody that was an expert. They was bringing somebody popular so that he could do what he do. And I
Mm-hmm.
believe that Cameron has always stood in that position that he's a nigga, he's a real nigga, and he's a street nigga. And when you talk to Cameron, who just had like strippers on top of his desk before he did his sports entertainment news segment with Mason, the sister that they have on there, I think he represented himself accurate to who he is all the time on that thing. So, the people that you're speaking to, the people who would actually listen to you and sit down and get media training, those are people who already have an intent to show up a particular different way,
Mm-hmm.
and people who consider themselves to be a part of the intelligentsia, the culture that wants to be represented in a higher regard. They bring people on that like Cameron on purpose because they know he's not one of those people that care about being
Mm-hmm.
represented in that. So
Mm-hmm.
in that moment, right, Cameron does not represent the average black man. Cameron represents
Yeah.
Cameron, right, whose entire career has been based off entertainment, degradation, gangster rap, you feel me, street nigga rap, wild antics, you feel me, party and bullshit, have fun. That's Cameron 100%. If they
Mm-hmm.
would have brought somebody that they wanted a serious take from, we would have gotten that. But
Right.
also, I have an issue with the fact that you don't see not one single business partner of Diddy being questioned about it. Them white people and them Jews don't get no questions about Diddy, and they actually are in business with him.
Mm-hmm.
Cameron doesn't have any business with him. He's just another rapper. If you want to question somebody, go question a man who owns Revolt.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, I totally agree, and I don't, and I agree with you in saying that Cameron was representing Cameron, and he don't represent all black men. You know, I fight on that all the time. There's no one representative of us. But what I'm also wanting to educate people on, which is what we try to do, on what you're looking at. I want people to know like what you're looking at. It's not that I'm expecting Cameron to pick up the phone and all of a sudden, I didn't even mention him. The only rapper I mentioned in my video was Diddy, which is you're gonna be, if you're being called upon by Diddy in this moment, recognize what this moment is because it is so much bigger than Diddy. It is a bigger conversation than Diddy. So my point was that people applied it to Cameron, but I also said female rappers who have been on CNN as
Yeah,
of late that didn't have nothing to do
Glorilla.
with Diddy.
I
So
think it kind of goes the same thing with Glorilla and them
right,
asking her about Biden or
right,
asking Sexy Red about Trump.
right,
It's the same thing. Their opinions, in all honesty, don't matter. They're entertainers, so their political opinions is not something that anybody should be influenced and or live by.
right,
Right?
and
There,
right.
there's
But
a
we
true
also
case of just
right.
entertainers in a
Right.
lot of
But
different
we also
ways.
have to name that though. You know, just like you name it so people can know this is what you're looking at. I need you to know that because it's not a matter of being influenced by them, but they are influencers. But it's important, I just think, as educators and trying to get people to understand what they're seeing. And what you do that all the time, Keys, like this is what's behind the scenes. I need y'all to know what this is. Because as we continue, because more stuff is coming out about Diddy, as we continue to keep having this conversation about Diddy,
Yeah,
this conversation is far from over. And there's going to be a time where we're going to have to go back and talk about, like I said on my podcast, I want y'all to know like what really is happening, what really happened with this downfall. No disrespect taking away anything from Cassie and her pain and anybody else. But I only have known one billionaire that has ever picked up the phone and say, hey, how can I help y'all do what y'all doing over here with these black people? And that was Puff. But that's not a conversation that we can have now because it's just too new, too real, too raw. But there is a bigger thing that's happening here that a lot of people are just not seeing. So I'm
hundred
just laying it out so
percent.
you can know like what this shit is. It's not just a joke and oh yeah, Cameron showed them. No, he really didn't show them. He showed up exactly like they knew he would show up. That was the point. That was the point.
Yeah, I think that's where when you hijack the news segments and we take media and we control narrative, it's to yes. The next thing is to showcase this was a rapper, right, playing with CNN, right? That's what that thing was. Now here's a real take, and then also yes, we know the whole Diddy thing and is definitely way bigger than that.
Mm,
You feel me? And but unfortunately, we got the emotional crowd mind, and the crowd is swayed by emotions. They're swayed by triggers and trauma. They're not swayed by facts and intellect and logical executive thinking. So you can't sway the crowd with facts, right? They do it through emotions, and they understand they got this laid down to a format and a science more than anybody. Mainstream media are magicians with this shit.
mm,
They got it to a key when we if you really was to take a dissection of everything that's happened with Diddy, you can't start it at a particular moment, right? You would have to ask yourself serious questions which nobody in the media is asking. Why is the video just being released now? Right? Who gets to decide at what time that this becomes the news segment? Right? And for what reason? All of these are important things when you playing with the people and you manipulating emotions and manipulating, right, the people through trauma. through the Protect Black Women guys, but we know that the media don't give a damn about protecting black women whatsoever. So that's them hijacking emotions, understanding that these traumas exist through women and putting that out there, right? Without the trigger warnings, with what all of that, you have to understand that that's what they call trauma porn. You know what I mean? And they're utilizing that trauma porn to create these things when there are so many other narratives in the media that if we were serious people, we would be having the same state of conversation and be as emotionally involved as these other things that's happening in the media that are even more important, if not as if important.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, I appreciate that. I don't know. You had a post earlier about it, did you? Or you went live?
Yeah, I was just giving basically that breakdown. Like to the it's CNN playing with people emotions. They
Mm-hmm.
playing with y'all because if they wanted something serious, they wouldn't go with an entertainer or celebrity. They'll go with an expert,
Mm-hmm.
right, to get a serious take. And the next point was you look at somebody and they obviously know, like he alluded to the talent manager or whoever booked to put together that segment. They said, okay, who do we want to have? They wanted to pick Cameron to get an ignorant moment. They wasn't trying to get an intellectual breakdown on psychological trauma and ways to reverse these issues in the black community. Especially, you don't go to Cameron
Right.
for that. So the man literally had OJ Simpson on his show,
Yeah.
right? So, and as a regular, you feel me? So if all people in the world, no, and then you gotta understand these rappers, he about his money. So if he's going to get on that show, he's going to do what he does, which is focus on his money and promote his show. That's
Right.
all that he has shown that he cares about. So it's the CNN playing with y'all and creating these representations and creating these narratives and spinning the emotions of the people so that we then fight at each other, but nobody and they making it seem like it's just a cultural problem. This exists outside the context of the so-called hip-hop culture.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, it's an industry problem, right? If we're going to contextualize it and create a narrative, because Diddy is in a different class, right? This is something of if we go contextualize, he's not an average black man by far. He's a billionaire black man with power. So we go contextualize it, it'd be talking about men with power,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the societal feelings around that. And then we gonna compare that to other billionaires, right? That are in the same position. So you compare that to the Elon Musk of the world. You compare that to the Jeff Bezos. You compare that to other people that are in those power positions, and then you bring out his business partners. If you want to start and actually talk about the culture that Diddy is a part of by being in that billionaire class and the people that he has association and business ties directly to, and every single sponsorship and person that has done business with him. But that's not bringing somebody even up like Mace, who was considered to be a victim of, Diddy's business acumen and or practices.
Mm-hmm.
That's not even how you control if you giving real high level news.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't think like that because the average person don't have time to actually think about, what is the best way to think about these things,
Right.
right? Because people are busy, so they go through the emotions. How do I feel? Right? And what are my feelings connected to this? And they don't have enough time to process that in a logical manner.
Right. But that's where people like yourself or me or others come in. The same way you said Cam is gonna do what he's gonna do, I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do too.
100%.
What you gonna do? Like the
That's
truth got to be.
why. That's why. I see your post. Hey, she gonna do what she gonna
Yeah,
do. That's
like that,
it.
like I'm
You
still gonna do,
you
like,
supposed
because
to.
you're doing what you're doing. They're gonna be louder than me, more followers than me, be able to get more entertainment, more whatever, but I'm still gonna do what God's called me to do too. I'm still gonna give you a different piece of game that you can pick up and take with you. Use or lose it, can't make you choose it. I'm not gonna stop doing what I do either. So we're all gonna do what we're supposed to do. If you can count on him and for being consistent to do what he's doing, then count on me to be consistent on what I do. And it wasn't even about him. It was about media in general, just because I do media training. And I wanted people to know this is what you're looking at and this is what is happening. And you can say, and anybody in the comments can keep saying, well, that ain't us and that ain't this and that ain't that, but they're not being called upon by these producers. And so I was really speaking to those who actually will get called upon. And that's very few and far between. It's probably only 30 or 50 I think one time I counted 40 actual black talking heads on cable news when I actually counted. There's 20 of us who have at 20 or 30 that have actually been paid contributors for a network. Mine was a Black News Channel for a network. So I'm talking about a very select group of people that will actually be called upon in real time. People in the comments can say what they want to say, but at the end of the day, CNN ain't calling you, Revolt ain't gonna call you, Fox ain't gonna call you, whoever ain't gonna call you to say, hey, what's your take on this? So I was speaking to those who, obviously, a lot of my colleagues, people that do follow, people that do watch. Hey, I want you to know this is what's happening in this moment. And then for people who just want to get educated on what's going on behind the scenes, this is what's happening, guys. This is how it's all going down. So that was me just sharing information. It wasn't to condemn him. Like I said, I didn't even mention him. The only rap I mentioned was Diddy, saying you're going to be called upon in this moment, and we have to be careful with how we handle this moment. It was no different than the advice I gave Senator Turner, who was called upon in this moment about, hey, what are your thoughts on Diddy? No different than the other 4 or 5 people I named that are actually being called upon in this moment. It wasn't expecting Cam to be anything other than, I don't know that brother. Hey, great. Push his brand, promote, do whatever to build you. My focus, and will always be my focus, how can we build the collective out of this? What are we getting out of this? And I just want people to know that sometimes just keeping it real and being exactly who they want you to be, you're not beating them at their own game. You actually played right into it. You played right into it.
Yeah, I mean that's what hip hop does, though. I don't think hip hop is counter right to the narratives that they run. You feel me? Like at the end of the day, the average hip hop artist works for them. You know what I mean? A puppet's to a master at the end of the day. So I think any expectation, you feel me, when you have people, if you make music that is completely representative of a lower nature, I don't expect for you to represent yourself in a higher mind.
Mm-hmm.
And you're definitely not a representation of a good culture, right? There's a lot of influence out there. There's a lot of culture out there, but we never talk about whether it's good or bad, right? Because there's a line that has to be drawn into the sand if that's what we go push. And most people are bad influence, not good influence.
Mm-hmm.
You feel me? So that's where I don't look for who's popular, right? We got to look for who are the experts, who are correct. Like we don't have popular scientists, engineers, right? Thought leaders, philosophers, people like that that represent us when it's time for us to get facts.
Mm-hmm.
We go to whoever's the most popular, not who's the
Mm-hmm.
most educated, who has the greatest expertise, who is the greatest master in this particular thing. No, we're not looking for experience. We go for popularity because at the end of the day, it's not really about enlightening the masses.
Mm-hmm.
It's about selling a segment, right, for attention that they can then run a sponsorship ad on so that they can make money because it's a business.
Mm-hmm.
And once you understand the way that the media business runs, and not only the way the media business run, but the politics connected to the media business, then you know that things have to be ran a certain way. Black people have to be shown a certain way. Rappers have to be shown a certain way. They have to put certain controlled opposition in there. There's certain things that they have that keeps a curated balance so that they can control the world. Because whoever controls your news, right, they control the world.
Mm-hmm.
They control what you think, what you see, what you feel, the perspective they give, the emotions that you have, the whole entire thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Yep, that's
I
it.
am being honest. Look, I'm from the street. Some time am I disappointed or I'm not being honest about the can thing, bro? It is. First of all, I didn't delete it. It's on high level conversation page still. I just add myself to it to boost them up, right? To make sure that everybody see it. Then we put it back on that page. I see things from a multi-dimensional perspective. Most people only look at things from their lens. Most people only filter things from their emotional connection to things. That's not how I look at things. Then when moments happen, like Tesla, I'm gonna use that to hijack a news cycle so that I can then throw in my own narrative as you speak on about what we actually seeing, right? Because those are the ways when you talk about mainstream, you're just talking about where all the attention is flowing, right? And so anytime everybody is paying attention to one direction, then you can get into the stream of flow of that attention and say, wait a minute, this is how we should direct our attention. This is the right way to go, right? So if you ever want to be a contributor on high level conversations, new segments, you feel me? Let us know because I don't mind amplifying your voice, and I don't always have to agree with something in order for us to have logical takes on things.
You talking about me
Yeah,
or
I'm
the
talking
person?
about you. I'm not talking about that person.
Oh, you got it. And again, hey, first of all, I'm the only one in politics that trained Bloods and Crips, and this is the electoral college using Inglewood family. So let's be clear about, I don't try to make anybody be any different than who they are.
Yeah.
You show up how you are. I can work with you how you are. That has nothing, I wasn't having an expectation for Cam. I'm letting people know in this moment, this is what you're seeing. And in this moment, you can, there are ways, I do it on Fox all the time, when they think you're going to show up in Coon and you flip it and you take it another way. I do it all the time. They give me a
Mm-hmm.
topic. Oh, they think I'm supposed to go this way, but I'm going to go in the opposite way. And because it's live TV, I can go in the opposite way. It's no editing. I hate edits. Like when we did, I hate edits. I hate all, I like live. Let's get it out live, no taking back. I do it all the time. I do it 80 to 100 times a year. So I was just wanting people to know there's a way. If we're saying, oh man, he showed them, he went another direction. I'm saying you can go in another direction in another way. I'm just giving you different tools to use. That's it. I have zero expectation for him. And when people are saying, oh man, you clout chasing, you must be clout chasing. Clout chasing for what? I'm on mainstream media 100 times a year, Keys. I'm not clout chasing. I do news of the day. Not just when a hip hop head is down. News of the day. There's no chasing. And let me be clear with you. Rappers are the hardest clients that I've ever had to work with, Diddy being one. They don't listen to nobody. They got it all figured out. It ain't a mic they don't think they can rock. They think they know it all. Rappers are the most challenging out of all, which is why Killer Mike showed me so much respect. They are the hardest people to work with, period. Trust me. Ain't nobody looking for no rapper clients. I just wanted, this is what we're seeing. Because I think it's our job, or mine at least, as an educator, to let you know, hey y'all, this is what we seeing, and this is how deep this shit is. My thoughts on that. Yeah.